Okay, so get this. We're diving into North Korea.
Oh, wow.
But not just any trip. We're going deep inside Camp 14 with Shin Dong-hyuk.
Yeah.
He's the only person born in a complete control district camp
Right.
who escaped to tell the tale.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
that's pretty incredible.
it is.
And when we say complete control,
Yeah.
we're talking about a whole different level of
Yeah.
isolation and repression.
Yeah,
Unlike other North Korean prison camps,
right.
these are designed for lifelong detention
Yeah.
with no possibility of release.
So forget any hope of parole.
Exactly.
You're born there, you work there, you die there.
Wow.
And to make matters worse, Shin's story isn't just about surviving this nightmare.
Right.
It's about what happens to a human mind when hope, love, family,
Yeah.
all those things we take for granted are systematically stripped away.
It really makes you question how much of our humanity is nature versus nurture, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And to give you a taste of what we're dealing with, imagine being 6 years old
Oh, gosh.
and witnessing your classmate beaten to death with a chalkboard pointer.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what Shin saw for stealing 5 kernels of corn.
That's just, it's a chilling reminder of
Yeah.
the arbitrary and brutal nature of the camp's punishments.
Totally.
Imagine that kind of fear hanging over your head constantly.
Yeah.
Never knowing what seemingly insignificant action could trigger such violence.
That was just a normal day for Shin.
Wow.
He was born into the system.
All right.
His parents chosen for him by guards.
Wow.
He didn't know anything else.
Gosh.
Food was scarce, mostly corn porridge and pickled cabbage,
Uh-huh.
sometimes for days on end.
Wow.
Shin's memoir talks about eating rats, insects,
Oh, gosh.
even scavenging undigested corn from animal waste just to survive.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
That level of deprivation is unimaginable for most of us.
It's hard to even wrap your head around it, right?
Yeah, I know.
And the camp's rules were designed to keep everyone isolated and under control, no escaping, no forming groups. And perhaps the most chilling rule of all, informing on others was mandatory.
Oh, wow. Even on your own family.
Yeah.
Think about the kind of psychological pressure that creates.
Right.
It's a system designed to break down trust, loyalty,
Yes.
even the most basic human bonds.
It was like living in a real-life dystopian novel.
Wow.
They even had their own 10 commandments posted throughout the camp. The first one, anyone caught escaping will be shot immediately.
It's just, those commandments weren't just rules.
Right.
They were a tool for manipulating and controlling the prisoners.
Yeah.
They create a sense of hopelessness.
Right.
And reinforce the idea that any attempt at resistance was futile.
And the snitching culture,
Right.
it was everywhere. It was the only way to survive.
Wow.
Which makes the story of Shin's betrayal all the more tragic.
Oh, gosh.
He overheard his mother and brother planning an escape
Wow.
and indoctrinated, as he was told the guards. He thought he was doing his duty.
This is where the camp's psychological manipulation becomes really evident.
Yeah.
Shin had been so thoroughly brainwashed that he didn't understand love or family bonds in the same way we do.
Totally.
In his mind, he was protecting the order of his world.
And the consequences of his actions were horrific.
Oh, no.
He was tortured for months, suspended from a hook burned over a fire, all because he was trying to follow the rules of the camp?
It's a stark illustration of the camp's cruelty and the lengths to which the guards would go to maintain control.
Yeah.
Even loyalty was punished if it threatened their authority.
But here's where a sliver of hope comes in.
Okay.
While imprisoned in an underground cell, Shin was placed with a cellmate called Uncle.
Okay.
Unlike the guards, Uncle was kinder or more knowledgeable about the outside world. He sparked Shin's imagination with stories of life beyond the fence,
Wow.
especially tales of delicious food.
Uncle represents this crucial turning point in Shin's journey.
Right.
He planted a seed of doubt, a flicker of curiosity about a world Shin had been told didn't exist.
And that flicker would be fanned into a flame by Shin's experiences after his release from that underground prison.
Okay.
He was assigned to backbreaking work at a dam construction site,
Oh, wow.
surrounded by death, people dying from exhaustion accidents,
Gosh.
even being swept away in a flood.
And even in the face of all that death, the camp's twisted system was still in play.
Right.
Shin was forced to compete with other prisoners to bury the bodies,
Yeah.
the reward being a slightly larger portion of rice.
So here's Shin, surrounded by death,
Yeah.
and the only way to get a slightly larger portion of rice is to compete with other prisoners to bury the bodies. This twisted system,
Yeah,
it makes you wonder what happens to a person's mind, right?
it really does.
It forces you to devalue human life just to survive.
It's a stark reminder of how the camp's environment warped perceptions of basic human dignity.
Right.
But thankfully, another figure enters Shin's life who helps him start to see things differently. A man named Park.
Park was different. He was a former elite from Pyongyang who ended up imprisoned in the camp.
Wow.
And despite the hardship, he held onto his dignity.
Right.
He even refused to eat rats raw,
Wow.
which in that environment was a radical act.
Park's example was pivotal for Shin.
Yeah.
Here was someone who hadn't completely succumbed to the camp's dehumanizing influence.
Right.
He showed Shin that there was another way to exist,
Right.
even in that horrific place.
And Park also becomes Shin's window to the outside world.
Okay.
He shared stories about South Korea-China technology, things Shin had never even imagined. It was like opening a door to a whole new reality.
And most importantly, Park shared knowledge.
Right.
He gave Shin a glimpse of what life could be like beyond the barbed wire fences and guard towers.
Yes.
He sparked that yearning for something more.
And that yearning led to a pretty remarkable act of defiance.
Okay.
Despite the risk, Shin chose not to inform on Park for possessing a radio. He valued their friendship and the knowledge Park provided more than potential rewards.
That decision marked a turning point in Shin's journey.
Totally.
A shift from blind obedience to valuing human connection.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the power of hope and the enduring strength of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable hardship.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into Shin's daring escape from Camp 14.
I can't wait.
It's wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right, see you next time.
What's that?
Welcome back. The last time we left off, Shin had this flicker of hope thanks to Park.
Right.
But they were still stuck in Camp 14,
Yeah.
surrounded by barbed wire fences and guards with shoot-to-kill orders. So how does he actually make it out?
Well, you have to understand, escape from a complete control district was considered virtually impossible.
Right.
These camps weren't like regular prisons.
Yeah.
They were designed to hold people for life.
No pressure, right? But as luck would have it, a rare opportunity presented itself on New Year's Day 2005.
Okay.
The prisoners got a 2-day break,
Uh,
and Shin learned his work crew would be heading up a mountain ridge
yeah.
near the electric fence on January 2nd.
It was risky, no doubt.
Right.
The fence was designed to kill,
Yeah.
with a constant current running through it.
Oh, wow.
But desperation can be a powerful motivator.
So they had a plan.
Okay.
Shin knew the camp's terrain like the back of his hand,
Yeah.
and Park, with his knowledge of the outside world,
Yeah.
would guide them to safety in China once they got over the fence.
It was a long shot, but they saw it as their only chance.
Right.
And remember, they weren't just risking their own lives.
Yeah.
Anyone caught helping an escapee would be severely punished,
Oh, God.
possibly even executed.
Talk about high stakes.
Wow.
So picture this. It's freezing cold, dark,
Yeah.
and they're crawling towards this deadly fence. Shin slips and falls,
Oh, no.
and Park reaches the fence first.
Okay.
He pushes through and suddenly sparks.
Can you imagine the terror?
I know.
Shin sees the sparks, smells burning flesh,
Yeah.
and realizes what's happening.
Oh, my gosh.
Park has become a human ground wire, taking the full force of the electric current.
It's a horrifying moment, but a crucial twist of fate.
Right.
Shin manages to crawl through the fence.
Wow.
His legs badly burned,
Oh, gosh.
but alive.
It's pure luck that he survived.
I know.
And now he's alone in the freezing darkness.
Right.
With no map, no supplies, no idea where to go.
He was literally thrown into the deep end.
Wow.
Shin spent the next few weeks navigating North Korea,
Uh-huh.
dodging patrols, relying on his wits and the kindness of strangers.
Right.
He snuck onto trains, bribed guards with cigarettes and crackers.
Wow.
It was a constant fight for survival.
And what's striking is how little awareness there was of the camps outside their immediate vicinity.
Right.
Even ethnic Koreans he encountered in China had no idea what was happening just across the border.
It's crazy to think about, right?
I know.
This whole system of brutal repression operating in the shadows,
Well-
hidden from the world.
It speaks to the North Korean regime's effectiveness in controlling information and keeping its citizens isolated.
So Shin eventually makes it to China,
Okay.
exhausted and traumatized.
Yeah.
He ends up working for a farmer tending pigs.
Wow.
It wasn't freedom,
Right.
but it was a step up from Camp 14.
It was a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
To experience a life where he wasn't constantly under surveillance and threat of violence.
Right.
But the journey wasn't over.
Yeah.
He was still driven by that desire for a better life.
Yes.
A life where he could be free.
He knew he couldn't stay in that one spot forever. So he decided to travel further into China,
Right.
relying on the kindness of strangers and the occasional help from Korean churches he found along the way.
But even among these Korean communities in China, there was a sense of apathy towards North Korean defectors. They'd seen so many come through.
Oh, wow.
All with their stories of hardship and desperation.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
It is.
The sheer number of people fleeing the regime had almost desensitized those who could potentially help them.
It speaks to the magnitude of the crisis,
Yeah.
the overwhelming scale of suffering that was taking place.
Right.
But Shin didn't give up.
Good.
He kept moving.
Yeah.
Kept hoping for something better.
And his determination led him to Hangzhou,
Okay.
a bustling city in eastern China,
Uh-huh.
where he landed a grueling job in a Korean restaurant.
It was backbreaking work, long hours, little pay.
Right.
But he was determined to prove that he was more than just a product of Camp 14.
Yeah.
He was a survivor, a fighter, and he was going to build a new life for himself.
And this determination eventually led him to South Korea,
Wow.
the land he had only heard about in Park's stories.
The land that represented freedom, opportunity, a chance to finally escape the shadow of the camp.
Right.
But as you can imagine, adjusting to life in South Korea presented a whole new set of challenges.
That's where we'll pick up in part 3, Buckle Up, because this is where Shin's journey takes an unexpected turn. So we left off with Shin finally reaching South Korea,
Right.
this land of freedom he had dreamed of.
Right.
You'd think that would be the happy ending, right?
Well, it's definitely a huge step, but
yeah.
imagine going from Camp 14 to modern-day Seoul.
Right.
It's a complete sensory overload.
Yeah.
The bright lights,
Yeah.
the bustling crowds, the abundance of food,
Yeah.
things he'd never experienced before.
It's like being dropped on another planet.
Yeah.
And remember, Shin's understanding of the outside world was pieced together from scraps of information, whispers, forbidden radio broadcasts.
He was stepping into a reality he never truly knew.
Yeah.
And beyond the practical adjustments, think about the emotional turmoil.
Right.
He's now confronting the truth about his past.
Yeah.
The brainwashing, the horrors he witnessed.
Yeah.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
It's like he's finally free, but his mind is still trapped in that camp.
Right. And to top it all off, he learns the truth about the Korean War for the first time.
Oh, gosh.
The version he was taught in the camp. Complete fabrication.
It makes you realize the extent of the regime's control over information.
Exactly.
They literally rewrote history to serve their own agenda.
And for Shin, it's another layer of trauma.
Right.
Another piece of his reality shattered.
So here he is trying to rebuild his life.
Right.
But the scars of his past run deep.
Yeah.
He struggles to fit into South Korean society,
Right.
which is fast-paced, competitive,
Yeah.
and let's face it, not always the most welcoming to North Korean defectors.
He finds it hard to connect with people, to trust them.
Right.
The camp's indoctrination, the constant fear and suspicion,
Yeah.
it all lingers.
Right. It makes you question what freedom truly means when you've been so deeply conditioned to distrust and fear.
Absolutely. Can you even imagine trying to date, make friends, hold down a job
I know.
when you've lived through something like that?
It's a testament to Shin's resilience that he was able to function at all.
Yeah.
But the challenges were immense.
Right. And there was also this guilt,
Yeah.
this shame he carried about his own actions in the camp,
Right.
particularly betraying his family.
It's a heavy burden, right? But despite all this, Shin finds his voice.
He does. He starts working with Link,
Right.
Liberty in North Korea,
Yeah.
to raise awareness about the camps.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes a voice for the voiceless,
Yeah.
sharing his story with the world.
It's an incredibly courageous act.
It is.
He's forced to confront his past, relive those painful memories in order to expose the truth about what's happening inside North Korea.
And he does it knowing that some people will judge him and doubt him, even accuse him of lying.
It would be so much easier to stay silent, right?
Huh.
But he chose to speak up,
He did.
to use his experience to try to make a difference. And as he travels the world,
Right.
sharing his story, he encounters a range of reactions.
Some are shocked, some are moved to tears,
Right.
others are inspired to take action. But sadly, there's also indifference.
Yeah. It's a difficult story to hear, a difficult reality to confront.
Right.
And for many people, it's easier to turn away. Just
Yeah.
pretend it's not happening.
It's easier to stay in our comfortable bubbles.
Right. But Shin's story is a reminder that those bubbles are fragile,
Yes.
that our freedom, our way of life, it's not guaranteed.
It's a call to action,
Right.
a challenge to look beyond our own lives
Yeah.
and
Right.
recognize the suffering of others.
And it's a reminder that even in the darkest of places, hope can flicker, resilience can endure,
Absolutely.
and the human spirit can find a way to survive, to heal,
Yeah.
even to thrive.
And there's a glimmer of that hope in Shin's personal life, too.
There is. He meets a young Korean-American woman named Harim,
Right.
who connects with him on a deep level.
Their relationship hints at the possibility of healing,
Yeah.
of finding love and acceptance despite the trauma of the past.
It's a beautiful testament to the power of human connection.
It really is.
Shin's story is a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of fighting for human rights even when it feels overwhelming. It's a story that stays with you long after you've heard it,
It really
a
did.
story that challenges us to be better, to do better. What will you do with what you've learned today? Thanks for joining us for this incredibly moving deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.